Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com. I hope you're doing well and having a good day. I wanted to give you a sneak peek at the project that we're going to sew together on Tuesday. It is a handled laptop sleeve. It has a full-length front pocket that's perfect for the iPad, and it has a smaller back pocket that's perfect for your charger and cords. And then it has a double flap closure, and you can see the computer fits in there nice and snug. This is great for independent use as well as tucking inside a larger bag. So I am going to give you the exact measurements for the MacBook Pro as well as the formula if you would like to calculate the cut measurements for your body panels and pockets so you can custom make one of these to fit your computer. So I hope you'll join me Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then. Hi y'all, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today I am here to show you how to create a padded sleeve that is perfect to hold a MacBook Pro 13-inch. I'm also going to provide you with the measurements so you can custom size the cover to fit your laptop computer. So we're going to make a few changes. This is the initial prototype. I also want to incorporate 2 carry handles on this, so this is just a basic version of what we're going to create. If you did want something that looked exactly like this, you would just simply omit the pockets and the handles and you would be good to go. But I thought it would be fun to spruce it up a bit. So we're going to begin with the handles, which I fold in the usual fashion there, long ways press and bring those raw edges inward to meet on that center press line. I did put a bit of SF 101 in that center channel, and this strap measures 3.5 inches wide by 20 inches long, and you're going to need 2 of those. I am going to include a link down below to the design board for this project, and basically the design boards are PDF documents that include the written pattern measurements as well as step-by-step concise written instructions for how to assemble the project. So if you don't feel like taking notes as we go, please do check out my Etsy pattern shop and pick up the design board for this project. So you're going to prep 2 of these straps, and I like to begin by stitching down that open edge first and then across the opposite edge. And for this project I'm going to be using a 3.0 stitch length and a 90-14 needle. So now I have 2 awesome straps. I do want these straps to be fairly lightweight, stable but lightweight, so that double layer of the SF 101 is perfect for that, as is the skinnier cut of fabric. So I'm going to set those aside for a few minutes there, and we want to work on that exterior kangaroo pocket, I'm calling it. And those panels for that pocket measure 9.5 inches across by 7.5 inches tall, and there are 2 of them, and they are not interfaced, although if you did want to use something, the SF 101 again would be an excellent choice, and I would just interface one of those panels. So I'm going to position those right sides facing. I'm going to stitch down the 2 short sides and across the base. And for this, just use a really narrow 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you pivot at the base with the needle down, that'll give you a nice crisp corner. And then you're going to take this piece and you're going to turn that right side out, poke out those corners really well, and give it a nice press. And after you are done pressing it, Then go ahead and take that top edge and turn it inward about 1/2 inch and press again. Okay, so here's what my pressed pocket looks like, and again I just turn that top edge inward. And now what I want to do is tuck the ends of one of the straps in between those layers there, and I want to go ahead and get that strap down in there about 2 inches because I'm really going to need to reinforce that with a couple rows of stitching. So this is what you're looking for here to achieve with the handle, and it looks like a really sweet little girl's purse, which we should make one of those going forward. I know some of you probably have daughters or granddaughters that would love that, and I have a couple super cute designs for the girls, but nonetheless this is going to be a pocket. So now what I need to do is stitch across the top with 2 rows of stitching there, and when I approach those handle ends I'm going to back stitch so that I know those are in there really good. Okay, and that's what my slip pocket with the handle attached looks like. Now I want to prep that exterior rear panel, which I want to span the whole distance across the back of the laptop sleeve. So for the MacBook, this panel measures 14 inches across by 9 inches tall. So the 9 inches will suffice for any computer, but the 14-inch width is what's going to vary. So the formula that I want to give you for cutting out the interior and exterior panels, of which there are 4, is measure your computer when it's laying flat on the surface and closed, and you're going to add 2 inches to the width and 2.5 inches to the height. So for the 13-inch MacBook Pro, my panels are cut 11 inches tall by 14 inches wide, okay? So that's where the 14 inches comes in for this rear pocket. And there are 2 of those panels, and I took the top edge and folded that over about 1 inch, and then I'm going to stagger that slightly and just create a little lip there and run 2 rows of stitching across that pocket to finish. And I almost actually forgot, I need to install the strap in this pocket here. Okay, so after you have determined the measurements for your exterior pockets, then you're going to take those 2 panels for that exterior full-length pocket and stagger those just slightly so they create a fun little lip there. And then you're going to need to take the smaller pocket and position that on top of this panel at center. And this is just to get an idea of the placement for those straps, which we are also going to tuck in between those 2 layers. It does not have to be perfect, but you do want them in the same range. One pocket will be on one side and one will be on the opposite side, so you would just want to be in the ballpark there. 1/2 inch to the left or the right isn't going to make or break you, but it's worth it to try and get it close. Okay, so this is what that larger pocket will look like, and I'm coming in about 3 inches on each side there, if that helps you determine your measurements. And then same thing, I'm going to run 2 rows of stitching across the top of this pocket. I'm going to back stitch at the straps to reinforce that handle. Okay, so now I have my larger rear full-length pocket prepped and my smaller front little kangaroo pocket prepped. And what I want to do now is take those 4 body panels and back them with 1 layer of quilt batting. And I personally think that this is sufficient padding to protect my laptop because I have a hard shell case on it, and then I am usually putting this inside of another bag. If you wanted to use like the flex foam or multiple layers of interfacing, go ahead and add an additional inch to all of your measurements, because that foam and that interfacing is going to consume real estate on the interior of this, and you will be surprised how much it shrinks up from what you think. So again, you're welcome to pad this as much as you like and protect your equipment, but just keep in mind that you need to make it a little larger to absorb some of that foam. So the next step is to position that rear pocket on the rear panel, and you can line up the sides and the base, and that's what that's going to look like. And then you're going to need to position that smaller kangaroo pocket on the front. But what I suggest you do is line up the tops of the handles. So just keep that rear panel underneath there so you can get the handles the same height, and that's how you're going to know the proper positioning for that front pocket. So for me, just so you have a gauge, mine is coming up 2.5 inches from the base, and then I have those handles aligned, so it may or may not be exactly centered because I was just eyeballing it, but that's what that looks like. So now I need to stitch down the sides and across the base to attach this front pocket to the front body panel. And that's what that looks like. And so I have a cute little pocket there that I can drop my charger inside of, and I think ultimately I'll end up putting a snap closure right in the center there, but I'm going to hold off on installing that snap on that smaller pocket until I see how the flap closure comes into play here. So now I want to take these 2 exterior panels there with the pockets, and I want to position those right sides facing, and then using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, I am going to stitch down the sides and across the base. And that's what that looks like. And then once you are certain that you've captured the pocket, the front and the exterior in that seam, you can go ahead and trim that up to 1/4 inch. Okay, so after you get the edges trimmed down to about 1/4 inch, go ahead and turn that right side out, give it a good press, and then turn that top edge inward about 1 inch. You just want to make sure that it's even on both sides. And that's what the case looks like so far. Now we need to craft the interior, which for the MacBook Pro, that again is just the 2 panels, which are 11 by 14 and backed with a like-sized piece of warm and natural batting. If anybody's curious, I got this cute little lemon fabric at Hobby Lobby. And in total, this project, as I'm showing you today, just requires 1 yard of quilt weight cotton. So that's a fun way to use up your smaller cuts of fabric. So you're going to position those panels right sides facing, and then using the same 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, you will stitch down those short sides and across the base. And that's what that looks like. And then same thing, go ahead and verify you have captured both layers in your seam, and then you can trim that up to 1/4 inch. You do not need to turn this one around. You're going to leave it with the batting facing out, but you will need to fold that top edge over about a 1/2 inch. And then I do find it helpful to go ahead and just press that edge. And then you're going to fit the interior inside of the exterior. And I like to begin at the side seams there. So here's what we have so far. It's so happy. These lemons are just awesome sauce. Okay, now the next step is to craft the flap closure. And so this is going to be made from 2 pieces of cotton material that are 5.5 inches tall by 12 inches across there. And then I have 1 piece of the batting on the back. So you're going to position the fabric right sides facing and then put the batting on the back of that. And using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, go ahead and stitch down 2 of the short sides and 1 longer edge. And then you can trim up the excess there to 1/4 inch. And I do like to angle those corners just a bit. It helps them press really nice. And then turn that right side out, poke out those corners and give it a good press. And then that's what the flap looks like after it's pressed. So go ahead and top stitch down the 2 short edges and across the base. And that's what that looks like. Then you're going to want to install a snap in each corner. And I like to work with these heavy duty Dritz snaps, which I got at Joann Fabric. And here's what those look like. The various parts there. And I can install these with a small hammer. And that I think is the easiest way to do it. And I did demo the snap installation in last week's planner cover tutorial. So for your sake, I'm just going to quickly install these snaps in the corners. But if you are curious as to how I do that and you would like a close-up, please check out last week's video. Okay, so I have my cute little snaps in each corner. And now what I need to do is slip the raw edge of that flap in between the interior and the exterior layers that have this little smaller pocket there. Initially I thought that that smaller pocket was going to end up being the front of this, but I can see now that with this flap closure that is not going to be the case. So you can go ahead and tuck this flap down in there 1.5 inches, 2 inches, no problem. And you just want to make sure that that's centered. Generally, I do have to switch to the longer pins at this point because the clips won't keep that flap from shifting. So I get 1 pin in each end there, and these little tulip pins, they have a really long shaft there and they work perfectly for holding these flaps in place. So here's what I have so far. Looks like this. And so now the flap is going to interfere, you know, with the handle on the other side if you do not keep it above that pocket. So it ends up being a very shallow flap, but it functions nonetheless and will keep the contents nice and secure. So now I just need to mark where the remaining snap parts are going to go and install those. And then all we have to do is zip around the top of this and it will be ready. But again, I am just going to quickly install the remainder of this snap here so that the bag will close up nice, and then we will proceed from there. Okay, so I have my snaps installed now, and I just work on the back side of the exterior and then go through just that fabric and the batting to install that. But if you have a snap press, you may be able to go through the interior and the exterior without any problems. And so here's what the case is looking like so far. And now what I need to do is go ahead and unsnap that flap, and then I want to make sure that the interior and the exterior are still aligned nice and that flap is even across there. There's still time to adjust if anything had shifted, and I'm really happy with that. And now I'm going to put it up on the machine deck. I'm going to start at the side seam there and go across the back with the flap and get that nice and secure. And so I'm basically just lining up the right hand edge of the foot pedal here with the top of this bag, and I'm going to move nice and slow and go all the way across there. I keep one hand underneath and on the inside of the project so I can feel if anything's shifting. If you need to, stop and adjust, and you'll just want to back stitch once your seam connects. Yay, it's done, and it holds everything plus a little bit more. I'm really happy with it. It feels nice and secure and substantial, and this is just going to be such an awesome addition to my bag. So on the front here, I have slipped the case that I use for the iPad. I'm actually recording with it, so it's not in here, but I have this really heavy duty case. So I would be comfortable putting the iPad in that front pocket, which I didn't expect for that to be the case. I thought it was just going to be for like some paper at the most. So I'm thrilled about that. And then on the back pocket here, remember I talked about adding a snap. I don't feel like I actually need any closure on that, because when the bag's loaded, it's snug enough that the top of that pocket draws in really nice. And so I have room for the brick there and then for the cord, and they fit beautifully in that front pocket. And then the computer is nice and snug. It's an absolute perfect fit. If you want a little bit more wiggle room so it's a little easier to get in and out, again, just add that additional inch. So you would then be cutting 3 inches, adding 3 inches to the width and 2.5 inches to the height. If you want to go with the padding, increase that measurement another inch. But with the 2 layers of batting and the pretty much 4 layers of fabric on each side, plus the case that's on the computer, I feel pretty good about this, keeping everything safe. And the more I use it, the easier it will get to slide this in and out, because the material is going to stretch a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit over time. And I do have the case on the computer. So I'm thrilled with how this turned out. I hope that you enjoyed the project. If you did, please consider giving the video a thumbs up, and do just subscribe to the channel. I'll be back next week with another inspired project. If you are curious about the schedule, I do post that on the homepage of Sewspire.com, so I encourage you to check that out as well. And if you have any project ideas for me, please feel free to drop those in the comments, and I will get those on the schedule for summer 2021. So as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Thank you so much for sewing with me.